the box is just if you click on the speech bubble with the 3 dots in it up at the bottom. Be great to hear about who you are, where you're calling in from. Would be good to hear. Hi, Callum from Streatham. Hello. Cool. Okay. Oh, I can relax. I was having a real panic about that slight delay. I'm really sorry, everyone. Hope you haven't been waiting too long. Cool. Hi, Gary. Oh, you have not missed anything because I am also running late. Hi, Simon. That's great to hear that we've got some completely new people. That is how we're going to win this election, right? There's 2 million doors that we need to knock on over the course of the election. We need new people to come help. So that's great. Good to have you, Simon. Hi, Philip from Devon. Hi, Chris. 2 people in Waterloo. Brilliant. Amazing. Okay, well, I think I've kept you waiting long enough. Again, I'm really sorry about that. So let's start going through the board running training. I'm going to share my screen with you, show you a little presentation that just goes through really quickly what's on a board, how do we make sure that canvassing is fun and easy for everyone in our teams. Quick note to you all that while I'm sharing my screen with you, I'm not going to be able to see what's in the chat. So if you've got any questions, amazing, but keep them to the end and then I'll answer all of them all at once. It's just a bit of an annoying feature of Zoom. Sorry about that. So can you all see my screen? Should be able to now. Let me start this up. So running a board. Really important part of canvassing. Whether you're new or whether you're an old hand, I'm sure you will have seen that you need roughly 1 board runner for every 5 or 6 canvassers in order to make a canvassing session run smoothly, manage your teams well, make sure that canvassing is fun and easy. We've promised everyone that canvassing is fun and easy, so let's make sure that happens. Keep all of our activists energized, invigorated, make sure it all goes to plan. So 1 board runner to every 6 canvassers, thousands of new canvassers, that means we really, really need new board runners. I'm sure the reason that lots of you are at this training is that you've been to canvassing sessions and you've thought, oh, we really need more. So it's amazing that you're all here. So what's the aim of canvassing and what are the aims of running a board properly? We need the voter ID data so that on election day we can go back round, knock on the doors of every single Labour promise that we know we've got, remind them to vote and make sure we don't knock any doors to remind any of our opponents to vote. That is their job. We're not going to do it for them. So then secondly, we want to do a bit of communicating the Labour message, cutting through everything in the mainstream media, just have regular people talking to regular people about why a government run by the Labour Party is going to be really transformative for their lives. And then also we want to listen to people, hear what they've got to say, identify any local issues that are coming up so that our candidates can speak to whatever it is local people really care about. So what is the board runner's role in all this? You are basically managing a small group of canvassers, looking after them, making sure they're having a good time, making sure it's going well, and then you're also recording all of the data that those canvassers are picking up for the Get Out the Vote operation on Thursday. Less than 1 week to go, everyone. So how do we do this really well? Before your canvass, so, when you're at the meeting point, you want to, firstly, before actually any of this, let the person running the whole canvassing session know that you know how to run a board and that you're happy to do it. Because it might be that they're not used to having volunteers who they don't know just show up and say, yes, I know how to run a board, especially in some of the marginals that are less used to having a big canvassing operation. So let the organisers know that you can run a board. Then if they say, amazing, thank you so much, you're exactly who we need, and they hand you a board, this is what you then go on to do. So find your team, try and pick a nice mix of people who are first timers, people who are experienced, people who've travelled into the canvassing session and people who are locals. But, you know, those are just rough guidelines. If a big group of friends has come, then don't split them up. Let them come as a group of friends. You know, canvassing is fun and easy, and that means letting people stay with their friends. Everyone has given up their weekends, their evenings, all that kind of thing. So, you know, we need to make it fun for them. Then you want to give out everyone your phone number in case anyone gets lost or in case there are any latecomers or anything. They need to be able to get hold of you to know where the group is. Then if you have any complete first-timers who want to be buddied up with someone at first at least, buddy them up. And then just take a minute to make sure your team know what they're doing. They know what kind of doors you're going to be knocking on. You tell them a few things about the candidate. If you know anything about the candidate, this has probably already been done by whoever's running the whole canvassing session. It's great to just go over it with your team. Just take a second. Make sure everyone feels comfortable, confident, ready to go. So then, you're all ready. What's actually going to be in your bag with the board? You're going to have voter ID sheets. Those are the most important things. I'm going to show you an example of one in a minute. Then you should have a ring binder or a clipboard. I much prefer ring binders. I'm very sorry if you get one with a clipboard. They are much worse. You might have a sign-in sheet. You'll have some kind of leaflet that we call an out card, which is a leaflet that your canvassers will put through people's letterbox if there's no one home to answer the door. Might have some pens and pencils. You'll have some Labour stickers and rosettes. Make sure that you give those out to all your canvassers at the very start of the session because everybody loves stickers, me very much included in that. Then you might have a map highlighting the round that you're going to go on of all the streets that you'll do on your canvas. You might have a local briefing. You might have Labour membership forms. You might have window posters. If you do have window posters, top tip is to hand one of those out to each of your canvassers right at the start of the session and let them know that if they find a really solid Labour supporter, they should ask them to put that window poster up. And maybe set a little competition between your canvassers about who can be the first person to get a window poster up. So it's so important that absolutely everyone knows that an election is happening this time around. And there will be lots of people who we can't speak to on the doorsteps because, you know, they're not in at the right times, maybe they work shifts. But having posters up means that literally everyone in the local area can see that Labour are present and that there's an election happening. So that's what's in the bag. Now, as promised, some details on a voter ID sheet. You may notice that this is not a real voter ID sheet because they are full of, skipped forward a minute. They are full of people's personal data, so I can't show you a real one. But I'm going to talk you through what's on this one. So you've got the name of the road here. You've got the numbers, you've got full addresses on each entry, you've got the names of all of the voters registered at that address, you've got the information that we have from last time we canvassed that person about what their voting intention is. You will have it noted if they're a postal voter, you'll have it noted if they're a Labour member, maybe we'll have their phone numbers if they've given it to them in the past. You'll have the address of their polling station. That becomes really important on polling day. Lots of people will be asking about that. And then the thing that you'll be writing on, you've got these little boxes for data entry up here. And now the first box, this is the most important box. The boxes correspond to the questions written up here at the top of the sheet. So the first box is the one you'll be using most, which is how is this person intending to vote? So what you'll do with this door sheet is you'll take one address, you'll assign it to one canvasser, you'll write that canvasser's initials next to the address because you need to remember which address you've given to who, and I guarantee you that when your canvasser comes back to you, having had a conversation, they will have forgotten which door you just sent them to go knock on, so you need to have it written down for you because when they come back, you want to write voting intention data in this little box. And there's a set of codes that you'll use to do that, and I'll show you those codes on the next page, but don't worry about memorizing them. because they will be written on the board. So don't stress out about that at all. Yeah, so that's everything on this store sheet. A quick note about when you're assigning an address to a canvasser is to make sure that you tell your canvasser the first names of the people at the address and the details about the current ID, the details about whether they're a postal voter, so that, you know, for example, if they're a postal voter, your canvasser can ask them, have you already voted? Or, you know, that your canvasser can ask who else is in the household. Maybe we can see from this data that one person in the household is a supporter and one person in the household isn't. You want to warn your canvasser about that so that they know to ask for the other person. And also, you really need to stress to your canvassers that when they come back to you and give you data, they need to tell you who it is that they just spoke to. And sometimes you can feel awkward doing that because, I mean, it is a bit weird to knock on someone's door and be like, I know your name and I know the name of everyone else who lives here, and can come across as a bit weird. But for us to fill this data in properly, we need to know who that data comes from, because increasingly we're seeing mixed households where not everyone is voting the same way, especially, you know, when people vote along age lines. So it's really important we know who we spoke to. And I think quite a natural way that works a bit better for a lot of canvassers, you can pass this tip on, is to not ask people right at the start of the conversation what's their name, but to have the conversation, get to the end, and then say, by the way, my name is Holly, I didn't quite catch what yours was. These are the codes. L for Labour, T for Tory, S for Lib Dem because they were once called the SVP, A is against, X is won't say, D is don't know, Z is non-voter. In all my time canvassing, I don't think I've met anyone voting for these other parties, but I mean, you might live in Scotland or Wales, or maybe you live somewhere where there are more of those voters, but most of the time you'll just be using Labour or Against. And those are quite easy to remember, and it's also written on the board. So don't feel that you need to remember it. I'm just showing it to you so that you don't freak out when you see it written on the board. So then, already time to canvass. So as I said, you've got your door sheet in front of you. You want to assign a door to each of your canvassers, have them go out, have their conversations. While they're out having their conversations, I want you to walk a little bit further along the street than where all your canvassers are, so that your canvassers don't have to walk back from the door to get to you and then back to get to the next door. Instead, they're meeting you on their way to the next door. So always stay ahead of the pack. Stay out in front of your canvassers. And then, secondly, when people come back to you with data to give you or to ask for a new address, I want you to, if a lot of people come back to you all at once, ask who has data and make the people who have data wait while you send the people who don't have data back out to a new door, because you want to keep the whole process going as quickly as possible. You don't want people waiting around if they're not doing anything. You want to minimize waiting around. So if they've got no data, send them out again straight away. If they've got data, walk and talk, you know, go on a little bit. So you're out in front where you need to be, and, you know, listen to the story, celebrate the win. Maybe they just persuaded someone. That's amazing. That is what is going to win us this election. So make sure that they know that you're happy about it, we're happy about it, they're doing God's work right there. So let them know, celebrate the stories with them, but don't make other people wait around for it, and don't, you know, slow the whole process down. So, you know, if they've got data, great, hear about it, record it carefully, make sure you record it next to the correct person. But yeah, generally you want to be sending people out again as quickly as possible. And that's basically it. But being a board runner is very, very easy. And it's also really good for anyone who's like a little bit less mobile. Maybe if you have trouble with stairs, you have to do a lot less walking as a board runner than you do as a canvasser. So that might be worth noting to other comrades who might be interested in running boards. Quick note here about canvassing in blocks. They can be really noisy and really echoey, so don't all go into a block in a big group and then have a chat. sign the doors very slowly, all standing in an echoey stairway and right outside someone's front door, because I guarantee you the voter will not appreciate that. And we're here to make people like us, to make people want to vote Labour, not to annoy them and switch them off. So be wary of being too noisy. Don't go in big crowds. If you can, assign all the doors before you go into the block and then go in smaller groups. If you can, let your canvassers know which floor numbers the doors are going to be on that you've just assigned to them. But estates can be complicated. It can be really hard to tell which door will be where. Don't worry about it too much. Everybody knows that estates can be complicated. Just stay calm. Don't get flustered. Your canvassers will definitely understand if you need a second to figure out how the door numbering system in the block works. We've all seen ones that make no sense whatsoever. If you see an estate map while you're out, then take a picture of it or have a look at it, stop and check it against your board because they can be really helpful. So that's pretty much it. Just to reiterate, 4 golden rules. Keep it simple and brief, get data first and the details after, try and stay fast, stay ahead of the pack, remember people's first names, and when people are giving you the data, make sure that you know who that data is from. Then be accurate in the information that you're recording, fill it in clearly, and if one of your canvassers can get contact details from someone, if they think that the candidate could do with visiting someone, then just note that down on the side in a bit of the white space on the voter ID sheet. Having people's contact details is always great because people really do appreciate when our candidates take the time to speak to them and go visit them one-on-one and follow things up further if they're persuadable and they have an issue that they've mentioned to one of our canvassers. So if at all possible, and let your canvassers know this too, get contact details. And yeah, something else I haven't mentioned is that if one of your canvassers comes back and says, oh, the voter mentioned, that the NHS is the most important issue they care about, then you can jot it down in the spare space, like just a quick word of what's the most important issue to this voter. It can be helpful sometimes. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Let's have a look, see if there are any questions. Has anyone got anything more they want to ask about canvassing or about running a board or anything that I didn't cover? I'll give you a few seconds. But not that much to ask about. Really is not very difficult. Callum Harris asks, how does running a board work on polling day? That's a good question. It works almost exactly the same. There's just one difference, which is that the door sheet will look a little bit different because we're not going to be recording data about how people are intending to vote on polling day. On polling day, we're just going to be visiting people who are Labour supporters. And the data that we're going to be recording is that we're going to be asking them, what time are you planning to vote? So the sheet will look a bit different. It will still have the names and the addresses, except it will only be Labour supporters on the sheet. And what you'll be recording, as I said, is what time they're planning to vote. And our knocking up operation is that we'll ask everyone what time they're going to vote. And then if they've told us that they're going to vote at 6:30, then we'll say to them, thank you, good to speak to you. We will be back at 7. And then we'll go back and knock on their door again at 7 and say, have you voted? And we'll keep doing that until everybody has voted. But everything else, everything I said about staying ahead of the pack, everything about, data first, details after, that all is exactly the same, still stands, not very different. If anything, it's actually a bit easier to run the board on polling day. Philip Lee asks, what is against? So that is if you speak to a voter, you ask them how they're planning to vote, and they say that they're not going to be voting for Labour, but they don't tell you who they will be voting for. Then you just write against, because we don't know who they're voting for, but we know that it's not us. Someone asks, what is your tip about safety? So, as I mentioned at the start, you need to give out your phone number to all your canvassers. It's your job to keep an eye on them. Don't let any of them go missing. Make sure that you can see everyone, ideally. Don't go off and leave anyone behind, ever. I'm sure if you've already been canvassing, you'll know this, but let all your canvassers know that they shouldn't be going into anyone's houses, just staying out on the doorstep. And check in with your canvassers. And if any of them have had a hard conversation or anything that they felt uncomfortable with, make sure you talk to them about it. And if a voter was abusive to any of your canvassers, then note that down on the board that we don't want to be sending people back there, and let the organiser of the session know. But generally canvassing is very safe, and I've been canvassing for years and this hasn't come up with anyone. So it should be okay. Tanvir asks, where do we get PDFs of printed materials by Momentum, especially that new NHS one? This is great. This almost sounds like a planted question. It's so good. They are all available on our website. And if you give it a second, I'm going to post a link to the website in the chat box for you to all see. Sorry about this. I'm going to give you a link specifically to the NHS part. Okay. Here it is. Most important question, but I've seen the symbol. Oop, don't know how to pronounce that symbol. I guess it's like two interlocking S's, maybe, on a board this week. Do you know what that means? The short answer, Graham, is no, I don't know what that means. Sorry, I haven't seen that on a board before, but it should be in the codes. And if you've got any questions, just ask the person on their board. That's unusual that it's on their board. Ask them, you can find out. Simon says he's never. Oh, Simon says. Simon says he's never canvassed before. I'm thinking of doing a couple of sessions as a canvasser to see it all working. Then maybe tell an organizer I can run a board. That's a really good idea, Simon. Really good. I'm sure that once you get out there and see how it works, you'll see that running a board is really easy. But yeah, go along as a canvasser, have a look, get your feet, see what it's like, and then try out running a board. Daniel says, I once saw a board runner filling in a section at the bottom of the page at the end of the session. What would that have been? So quite often right at the bottom of the voter ID sheets, there'll be a little section that says, what date did you do this canvass? And those are more used outside of election time when the data might not be getting entered into our system straight away. But during an election, the data will be entered straight away. So it's not very important to fill that part at the bottom of the board out. But if you would like to be very meticulous, then you can put your initials and say the date and exact canvassing session on the sheet. But it's not very important to do that. Tala says that they've arrived late. Could we really briefly summarize it? Basically, in just 1 minute, the main principles are, as I said, the 4 golden rules of running a board. Fill in the data clearly and accurately. When you're assigning doors to people, make sure you make a note of who you've assigned to what door, and stay ahead of the pack. So walk a little bit out in front of all your canvassers when you've assigned all the doors. Try to keep it fast. If people come back to you and they don't have data, give them a new door before you hear the data from the people who have managed to have conversations. I mean, that's the very briefest I think I can do in 1 minute. Back on that question about safety, I think one other important reason to write down the initials of the canvasser who you've assigned to each door next to that door is that if you think, oh, it's been 15 minutes, that canvasser's been talking to someone for a really long time, I'd like to go check on them, it's important that you can look at the board and see which was the last door that you sent them to so that you can send someone else back, go and on them, make sure they're okay, maybe rescue them from a difficult conversation with a voter who was just trying to waste their time, that kind of thing. Okay. Jamie, I completely agree with you. It is all easy, all self-explanatory. Once you've done your first board, you will be flying. That is true. That's very true. Oh, Graham knows more than me. It's called a section symbol. It's not that crucial to know. So someone has asked, do the canvassers get one address at a time or more? So usually you'll be giving people one address at a time. It's much easier for them to remember it and get data more accurately. But, you know, occasionally you might have just two addresses on one road that are slightly separate from the rest of your route. So it's fine to just give those two addresses to one person at a time. Ah, Tanvir, I love your message. Good luck, everyone. You are all such an important part of the change we need. Tala asks, what do we do when we come across flats that we can't get into? Yeah, this is hard. I mean, have a little look at your board, see if we've got a Labour member who lives in that block who we might have a phone number for, who we could call and ask, you know, if they can let us in or if they can let us know a time when they will be in so that they can let us into the block. But if you can't get in, you can't get in. There's not anything we can do about it. You know, do try, do speak to people over the intercom, see if that gets you anywhere. But if it doesn't, then don't beat yourself up. It's not your fault. And just make a little note of it on the door sheet that you couldn't get in. And if you've got a board that's got like a really high proportion of doors that are in flats that you can't get into, then you know, let the person running the canvassing session know about it. But that's all you can really do, unfortunately. It is frustrating when that happens. Any more final questions from anyone? It doesn't look like we've got any, which is great. That means I must have covered absolutely everything. Brilliant. Okay. Someone has just mentioned that flats do sometimes have a trade button. That is a really good point. Do try pressing the trade button. A lot of the time those trade buttons will only work early in the mornings, so they're particularly useful if you're doing it. And one more question, what is DOM below a voter's name? I don't know that one either, so it must not come up that much. I guess it's not anything that's hugely important. I mean, the date of maturity. Yes, I have seen that. Thank you, Gary. See, you guys are teaching each other. You know more than I do. Yeah, so date of maturity is if there's someone who might have put their name on the electoral register while they're only 17 and they can't vote yet, but it will have on there the date that they turn 18, so they will be allowed to vote. So it's really helpful to have that on there. And let your canvasser know that they're going to be speaking to someone who's recently turned 18, because actually often those are some of the most important conversations that we can have with people the first time they're voting. This is the first time they're getting a voice in this election, so they're going to have interesting stuff to say, and they might be quite open to hearing ideas about voting. Graham says, feeling confident, let's win this. One last question. If a door has a sticker saying no caller, so I would say if they've got a sticker saying no cold callers, it's probably best to respect that, because that might be a vulnerable person who's like not open to speaking to people at the door. So I would say, you know, give that one a miss. But people who have signs that say no junk mail, this splits opinions, but I would say our election materials are not junk mail. You know, we're not advertising something. We're here to give people the information that they need to make a choice in this election. So feel free to put leaflets there. Yes, I agree with you, Callum. This is not junk completely. Simon says, see you on the streets. Let's make this happen. Amazing. I agree, Simon. Thank you, Deco. This is all great. Okay, it was really good to speak to you all. I'm sorry I was running so late at the start. I'm going to head off now, but yeah, let's win this. You know, we have the power of thousands of people out door knocking every night. They may have their billionaire backers and their friends in the press, but we are a people-powered grassroots campaign. And, you know, it's speaking to all of you, getting all these new people. This is what gives hope, and, you know, that I know that we can do this. So let's do this. One final push. See you all on the streets. Goodbye, everyone.